Okay. All right, we are recording. And methods or properties of graphing. That's what this part's going to be called, part 1. Method or properties. Heck, I started off wrong. Properties of graphing. Now, whenever we have 2 points on a line, 2 points on a graph, we can take those 2 points and connect them with a line. And you should be able to find the equation of a line. The equation of a line follows the following parameter. Y is equal to mx plus 0, which is y is equal to mx, or y is equal to mx. I'm not hitting on all cylinders today. I write x and I put a plus. Evidently, the Russians have hacked into my brain. B, okay, there's 3 parts of this. I'll just start with yellow, and I'll color that right there and that right there. And that is called the direction. It's either going to be plus or it's going to be minus, and that tells you the direction of the line, left to right up or left to right what? Down. If it's positive, it's left to right up. If it's negative, it's left to right down. If nothing is there, it's assumed to be what? A positive. The next thing, and we'll do it in aqua, is M. And what is M? Somebody tell me what M is. Oh, come on.
Measurement?
Slope. M is equal to the slope. The slope is delta y over delta x, which is equal to the change in y over the change in x. Now we're going to get back to this later. We're just going over some stuff right now. We'll do some x of 2 minus x of 1. Okay? But that's the slope. It's also the vertical over the horizontal. So you can calculate by going over here, or you can just look at it and say vertical over horizontal. And that's the slope. So that's going to be there. Okay? And then you've got B. And we'll go with a per day. There's B, and there's B. B is your vertical shift or your y-intercept. Vertical shift, or some people call it the y-intercept. And we'll color that green. What is X? X is your input. And what's Y? Output, Hubert. So those are your basic equations. Now, when we do equations here with the point slope equation here in the near future, your equation should look like one of those 2 when it finishes, when you finish. The next thing, and I already wrote it, but I'll write it again. The slope of a line. To calculate the slope of a line, you put the change in y over the change in x, which means y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Now we're going to do some examples of this in just a minute, but that's the formula. And the point slope equation is the next formula that you need to know. The point-slope equation is intimidating, but it's not that difficult. Y minus y sub 1 is equal to m times x minus x sub 1. Now there's a couple of other properties we're going to go over, and then we're going to look at some problems. Let me kind of make this a little bit smaller. Of course, it left one little piece out. What a surprise. Oh, great. It left. Kind of nice to have training on this stuff when we got them 2 or 3 years ago, but got to remember this is Tri-County Tech, so you don't have training on technology when you get it. Just give me a second, people. It'll take me a minute to get it to. I got everything? Yeah. Everybody still see that? Quit laughing at me.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Why are you laughing at me? That's going to give me a complex, and I'm going to have to put smokestacks on my truck or wear sunglasses inside. All right, so M or Y is equal to a number parallel to the x-axis, which means it's a horizontal line, which means M is equal to 0. And we're going to go over examples of this in just a minute. If y is equal to, if x is equal to a number, it's parallel to the y-axis. If it's parallel to the y-axis, that means it's a vertical line, which means M is undefined. So you need to remember those 2 rules. I'm going to make that dang old fuchsia or dang old, well, that's not what color I picked. Huh, I picked dang old, well, y is equal to a number, x is equal to a number. And we'll go over that in just a minute. And if you have m sub 1, if you have the slopes equal to each other, that means you have parallel lines. If m sub 1 times m sub 2 is equal to -1, that means you have perpendicular lines. That's supposed to be a -1. It's like a 0.1, but it's -1. Now, let's go around the room, since nobody's here at the Anderson campus. Everybody quit. No, I know one person is sick. The girl that sat back there, she's having some issues with some health problems. I don't know why he's not here, and there's one other person, but I don't know where they are. But anyway, how many of you, and let's start with Miss Johnson, since the camera shines on that side of the room all the time. How much graphing have you had, Miss Johnson?
Not much.
Miss Phillips?
That's all I've done last year.
What did you have? What math?
Geometry.
Okay. So you did a lot. You're still in high school, right?
No, I take that back. They do it. No, I take that back. I did Algebra 2 last year.
Algebra 2. You were in high school. You're still in high school, correct?
Yep.
Okay. What about you, Mr. Gilstrap?
It's been about 3 years since I really messed with graphs.
Okay. Mr. Robinson, it's been 105 years, right?
A long time.
Yeah, that's what Mr. Robinson is over 30. You're over 30, right?
Yes, sir.
As soon as you get over 30, everything turns into 110. So it's been 110 since you've been in high school, and 105 since you've had algebra and all this stuff. And Mr. starts with a P on the right. I can't think of his name.
Phillips.
Phillips. That's right. Okay, when was the last time you had graphing?
Like 3 years ago.
Okay. So let me ask you this. I'm going to go around the room again. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being I remember and 1 being I have no clue, where are we at so far on what I've covered? Let's start with Miss Johnson.
0.
Okay, Miss Phillips.
Like 7.
Okay, Mr. Gilstrap.
Solid 3.
3. Mr. Robinson. -5.
Yeah, I didn't learn it this way, so
Yeah.
Okay.
it's something totally new.
Okay,
When I
Mr.
was in high
Phillips.
school,
Yeah.
Probably a 4.
4. Okay, so we need to pretty much cover everything. So we're going to go into each one of these, and we're going to go into examples. All right. So let's move on to the next page.
I don't remember this at all.
Now, one way we can find stuff is to just what? Observe. Did it observe? Yeah, it has an E on it, doesn't it? Doesn't look right. Don't you hate it when you write a word and you look at it and you talk yourself out of it?
I do that a lot with like this, the word this. I'm like, that is not right.
You do that with this?
It's like simple words. I'm like, that does not look right. It's weird.
That's probably some kind of chemical reaction to the drugs you're on.
I pull out my
All
phone
right,
and-
now, observe. Observe means that you look at an equation and you can extract the information out of it, okay? So, let's look at this one. Y is equal to -2x plus 3. Y is by itself. Y is by itself and graphing is good. That is good. So you need to highlight that Y. We'll highlight it in green, meaning that's a good thing. When Y is by itself, that's a good thing. So, which way is this line going? Well, this line is negative, so that means it's going left to right down. We've got a 2 over 1, and we've got a y-intercept of 0, 3. Now, where did I get that? Well, I'll highlight it. Let's go with yellow. Yellow gives us that, which gives us that. Maroon, aqua. Aqua gives us a 2, which means 2 over 1. If it was 1/2, it would be 1 over 2. If it was 3/4, it would be 3 over 4. It's always the vertical over the horizontal. And since it's a whole number, what do I put under it?
A 1.
A 1, thank you. And then the last thing is my handy dandy burnt ass orange. And that will be there, which will give us that. So you can observe, and when you observe, make sure that Y is what?
By itself.
Y has to be by itself. Y equals mx, or Y is equal to mx plus b. And the only reason you have both of them is because sometimes this is a what? It's a 0, and you don't have to write 0, okay? So make sure that the Y is equal to a number, or Y is equal to, by itself, I'm sorry. Y is equal to an equation. Y is equal to mx plus b. So that's a problem I could give you on a test, and you tell me this information. Now, we're not graphing yet. We're just on part 1. We're just on examples, properties. So the next thing would be calculating the slope. Here, I observe the slope, and the slope is 2 over 1. Well, negative. You got a line going left to right down, and m is 2 over 1. We're going to get into graphing that later, but this is the stuff that you pull out. Now, what if I want to calculate the slope? calculate the slope is when you're given 2 points. How are you given 2 points? I can give you 2 points like this. 2, 4, 8, 10. Okay? Or I can give you 2 points like this. And we'll call this 0, 4 and negative 4, 0. Everybody with me? Yeah. Or I can give you 2 points like this, and you actually have to what?
Find 2 points.
You have to find them. Usually this will be on the back of graph paper. Why? Why do I have to have graph paper on this one?
So you can find the numbers.
Because you can't see where you can't see. You got to get the corners of the boxes. You know what I'm saying on graph paper. So usually on that third one, you'll have to have a piece of graph paper on the background so you can actually find the points. Capiche?
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, 90% of the time, well, 70% of the time you'll be given this. 20% of the time you'll be given this. Very rarely will you get one of these unless you have a piece of graph paper behind it. Okay? Now, the slope formula is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So that means parentheses minus parentheses e over parentheses minus parentheses, because I use parentheses when I plug in stuff, and I'm taking off my teacher title, and when I'm a student, I plug in. And I got several degrees, and I still use parentheses when I plug in. But I understand when you don't need them because you've got more degrees than I have. So, which way do we live? Which way do we read? Left to what?
We live.
Left
to right.
Left to right, unless you're from the Middle East, Masalama. X sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. X sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2, and so on. So now we just plug in what?
Chug.
Plug and chug. 10 minus 8, or 4, over 8 minus 2. Did y'all watch that daggum UFC fight?
No.
I was so disappointed. Okay, that's all I'll say. I had to watch it because there wasn't no good football games. There was 2 good football games on, but Kentucky got beat. And that was but dadgum Florida's back. Dadgum Florida just beat the crap out of. I mean, they just outplayed LSU. So you might as well say Florida's back. They done found their groove. But there wasn't any other good games on that I could see. Everybody was Cupcake Bowl. Anybody see a good football game this weekend?
I wasn't able to watch any.
Well, you didn't miss much.
No.
It was very non-competitive. Those were the only 2 that I saw were competitive, were those 2. But after that, I watched that UFC, then I went to bed because I was disappointed. I thought it was going to be a fight. It wasn't really a fight. But anyway, 10 minus 4 is what?
6.
And 8 minus 2?
6.
And the slope is
1.
So m is equal to 1. That's how you calculate the slope. Now you need to write that down and you need to make sure you understand when you get home what I did. Okay, first of all, I'm going to erase these because I wanted you to see. I don't want you to get these confused when you're doing your notes. I'm going to erase these now because these 2 don't have anything to do with that problem we just did. They're just examples. So that's basically how to calculate slope. Now, will these be positive all the time? No. Will they be whole numbers all the time? No. So I could easily give you one like this. And you might want to write it down. And I'll let y'all do this one. -4 1/2, 5 6. Now, do that one. And if you can't do it, we'll just write it up as being a failure of life. I wonder if me wrestling cows all my life, wrestling steers, I think I could have a chance with some of those UFC people, because they didn't even do any. All they did was just sit there and punch. I'm like, really? I thought UFC was supposed to be grappling. I thought it was supposed to be wrestling and martial arts and boxing.
It's definitely more entertaining when they stand
What?
up. It's definitely more entertaining when they do stand up instead of doing like a whole round of just rolling around and then doing like side punches to a guy.
Yeah, and then you go from one to the other. In the McGregor fight, that's all they did was grapple. 75% of those 4 rounds was grappling. Kind of boring.
Yeah, just saving energy.
Yeah. But then the most exciting part was the guy that won the fight against McGregor. He took off and jumped the fence and beat up 3 people in the audience of the McGregor team. And then one guy from their team jumped over the fence and hit McGregor with a right cross. Like, good gosh. They don't even have that in professional wrestling. Wrestling is RASSLIN, wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Phillips must have had a rough weekend.
I do.
You gotta quit drinking and doing all those drugs, Miss Phillips.
I didn't get home till late last night. We just come back from the mountains last night. Tired.
Well, I'll try to go as fast as I can. All right, so x of 2, y, so it's going to be 6 minus what?
4. -4.
6 minus 1/2.
Wait. Oh, sorry. I switched these two.
That's all right. You're dyslexic. We understand. So 6, 12 over 2 minus what? 1 over 2. And 5 and a negative what? 4. And what's 12 minus 1?
11.
And what's 5 plus 4?
9.
And multiply by 1 over 9. And my slope is equal to 11 what? 18ths. And I guarantee y'all, some of y'all didn't get that. Why? Because 1, you forget how to do fractions after Unit 1. And 2, you decided not to use parentheses and you got a 1 on the bottom. Always use parentheses when you're plugging and chugging, because fractions will mess you up as well as negatives. There's 2 test questions I just gave you right there. And I will test you on calculating the slope. Now let's use point slope equation. How we doing, Mr. Robinson? You still with me?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's use the point slope equation now. Now, the point slope equation, you need two things for the point slope equation to work. Can anybody tell me what those two things are?
You have to have your X and Y.
Which is, what is X and Y? If you have X and Y, what is that called?
You have to have your points.
And
Slope.
you have to have a point and a slope. Have to have a point and a slope. So I could give you 2 points, 2, 4, 8, 10. Or I can give you 2 points like this. Or I can give you 2 points and you find them. So it's basically the same concept. It's all what you're given. Or I can give you one more. I can say M is equal to 4 and X is, or this point is equal to 3, 0. So here's 1, here's 2, here's 3, and here's 4. So there's 4 different ways I can give you going into this question, the information going into this question. I can give you 2 points where you would have to calculate the what first, just like you did here. You'd have to calculate the slope. Or I could give you 2 points with a line and you'd have to calculate the slope. Or I could go ahead and give you the slope and a point and you just plug and chug. Which one is the easiest? Which one is the quickest and the easiest?
To be able to plug them in.
I'm sorry, what?
To plug them in.
This one right here is the quickest and the easiest. I'll show you that one right now because it's easy. But we're going to come back over here and, well, I don't want to use that 11/18 because that's going to cause a problem. So I just might use it. I might just go from over here to over there and just use these 2 points. So anyway, so Y minus parentheses is equal to M times X minus parentheses. That's my point slope equation. Which way do we read?
Left to right.
So this is X of 1, this is Y sub 1. Y minus what? What I put right here?
Three. No, the 4. Oh.
Y minus
Why do you
Y
use
sub
that?
1 is equal to M times X minus X of 1. What do I put right here?
The 0.
0. What do I put right here?
4.
And what do I put right here?
3.
And now solve it. Solve for what? Well, it's graphing. Solve for Y. Get Y by itself. So Y minus 0 is Y is equal to 4X minus what? 12. And that is the equation for the line that goes through that has this information right here. Okay, now let's go over here, and I'm going to change this line right here. And I'm going to draw a line like this. Now I'm going to go take this one right here. I'm going to go over here. I think we did this one. 2, 4, 8, 10. So I got to find the slope. 10 minus 4 over 8 minus 2, which is equal to 6 over 6, which is what? 1.
One.
So now I've got m is equal to 1, and y, and my point is 2 comma 4. So anybody tell me why I picked 2 comma 4? Why didn't I pick 8 comma 10? I could have, but why didn't
Numbers
I?
are smaller.
Numbers are smaller. Good. You always want to go with the easiest math. All right. So m is equal to 1, and you have a point of 2 and 4. So rewrite your y minus y sub 1 is equal to m times x minus x sub 1. Which way do we read? Left and right. That's x sub 1. That's y sub 1. All right. I want y'all to plug and chug. I want y'all to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and put y minus parentheses equals parentheses times x minus parentheses. What's y sub 1? 4, Hubert. What's slope? 1. What's x of 1?
2
So that's going to be y minus 4,
is equal to what x?
x minus 2. And then bring that 4 over y is equal to x plus what? X plus 2. We're knocking some of the cobwebs loose now.
Getting there.
Getting there. Mr. Gilstrap and Mr. Robinson and Mr. Phillips. Knocking some of the cobwebs loose.
It's getting something.
I'm sorry, what?
It's working.
Okay. Mr. Phillips, you're awful quiet. Mr. Robinson back there scratching his head. How are we doing, Mr. Phillips?
Pretty good.
Okay. So now you know how to find the slope, and you know how to find the point slope equation. Now let's do y is equal to a number, and x is equal to a number. Y is equal to 2. Y is equal to 7. Y is equal to negative 1/2. Y is equal to negative 3. Draw the graph. Y is equal to 2. 1, 2, and it's a parallel line. It's a horizontal line, sorry. Y is equal to 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Draw a dot parallel to the x-axis. It's a horizontal line. Y is equal, I'm going to draw these both on one graph. Y is equal to negative 1/2. There's 1, negative 1. So the line looks horizontal line. Negative 2, negative 3. Horizontal line. So anytime y is equal to a number, what kind of line is it? It's a horizontal line. X is equal to a number. X is equal to 1. X is equal to 5. X is equal to negative 2. X is equal to 1. X is equal to 5. X is equal to negative 2. So anytime you have x is equal to a number, it's parallel to the y-axis. All these, m is equal to 0. M is equal to 0. M is equal to 0, M is equal to 0. These are vertical lines. M is undefined. M is undefined. And M is undefined because they are vertical lines. Question, gripe, complaint. Now the last one I'm going to go over for properties is kind of tedious. So I'm going to show you what they're going to give you. They're going to give you y is equal, given, y is equal to 2x plus 3. They're going to ask for the equation for the parallel or the perpendicular line that goes through the point 4, 0. Okay, that's what they're going to give you. They're going to say, given the equation y is equal to 2x plus 3, find the equation of the line that's parallel to this line and goes through the point 4, 0. And then they're going to say another one, given the equation y is equal to 2x plus 3, find the equation for the perpendicular line that goes through 4 and 0. So, what do? Well, the first thing you do is you draw a BA table. Enough for you to be able to do algebra work in each section, in each of the 3 bottom sections. And then you put the equation over here. Sometimes it will not be y by itself. So the first thing you're going to have to do is make sure that y is what?
By itself.
So you need to write that down. Make sure y is by itself. Because sometimes they may give you 2x plus 3y is equal to 6. Okay, so basically I'm going to put right here, I'm going to put an arrow, and I'm going to put solve for y if needed. Okay, if needed. So what I mean is you might have, I'm just going to write it as x squared, 2x plus 3y is equal to 6. You may have something like that. And you would write that right here, and then you'd solve for y down through here, and you'd get m. In this case, m is equal to 2. Does everybody see where I got m is equal to 2? Right. Okay, everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
Now, for a parallel line, and I tell students to do both for extra practice, so that's why I got it set up like this. For parallel line that goes through the point 4 and 0, and over here for perpendicular line, oops, I don't know where I wrote that, I don't know why I wrote that like that. Okay, and I'm going to do this in green, or 4 and 0, and I'm going to do this in blue. Parallel line 4, 0. So I tell my students to set it up like this, so that way when they do each one of these problems, they can do the parallel and the perpendicular, and by the time they take the test, they'll be fluent with both of them. That's why I tell them to set them up like this. Okay, so here we go. Let's take the blue, and I've got a point, but I need a slope. So this M is going to be 2. Why? Somebody tell me why that M is 2 for a parallel line. Look back at your properties of graphing page, and the last thing I wrote, what does it say about parallel lines?
M1 minus M2 equals.
That's perpendicular. What's the one before that say?
M1 equals M2.
So what does that mean about the slopes?
They're equal.
They're equal. So if the first slope is 2, the second slope for the parallel line is going to be equal to what?
2.
2. So now I've got a point, and I've got a what?
Slope.
A slope. So what am I going to use? Okay, I don't know what's going on with this thing. It's going crazy. Okay, I've got a point and a slope. So I'm going to use my point and slope equation. Y minus y sub 1 is equal to M times x minus x sub 1. Y minus parentheses is equal to parentheses times x minus parentheses. What's my y sub 1? 0.
0.
What's my M?
2.
And what's my x sub 1?
4.
Now, solve it. So y is equal to what?
2x minus 8.
Y is equal to 2x minus 8. And that line is parallel to this line, but it's not the same line. Okay? But it goes through that point, 4, 0. Now we're going to do the perpendicular line.
So the slope would be -2 for the perpendicular one?
Good job. It's always the opposite reciprocal. Well, -1/2. You got the negative right. -1/2. And I want you to put
so you have to always...
reciprocal. It's always the opposite reciprocal. What's the opposite sign of 2? Negative. What's the reciprocal of 2? 1/2. You know, like reciprocal trade. Reciprocal. So, what do we have now? We've got a point and a slope. Now we're going to do the perpendicular. Y minus y sub 1 is equal to M times x minus x sub 1. Y minus parentheses is equal to parentheses times x minus parentheses. And y sub 1 is what? 0.
0.
-1/2. And 4. So y is equal to -1/2 x plus what? 2. And that green line, that green equation is perpendicular to 2x plus 3. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to erase this stuff up here. And we're going to draw these lines. And you don't have to worry about graphing them. I'm just going to show you. You can draw them, but I'm just going to show you what we actually found. So y is equal to 2x plus 3. That's going to be 1, 2, 3. That's the y-intercept. And then it's going to be a line 2 up, 1 over, 2 down, 1 over. So there's that line. There's the black line. Everybody with me? So that's y is equal to 2x plus 3. Now I'm going to graph the blue line. Blue line is y is equal to 2x, but it's minus 8. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's the, and then 2x, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1. Well, it's supposed to be parallel. And it's going through the point of what? 4, 0. So that's the point 4, 0 right there. Everybody see that?
No.
Okay, now let's draw the green line. Green line got a y-intercept of 2. It's supposed to be a plus 2. 1, 2. And then we've got a negative slope of 1 over 2. So that's 1 down, 2 over. 1 down, 2 over. And basically it's supposed to hit like that. Okay, again, it goes through the same point. But the green line is what to the black line? Perpendicular. And it's perpendicular to the blue line too, but that's what you're looking at. So that's how you do that problem. So make sure you make a note of that because you will see that on the homework and the test. But they won't ask for both. They'll just ask for one. But I tell students to do both so that way you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone, and that way when you do come up to a perpendicular, you'll know how to do it, and if you come up to a parallel, you'll know how to do it. And that is all about the properties of graphing. Now, there's 3 methods of graphing. And I think we'll wait on that one, and I'll let y'all go with just this part. Now, what I want you to do, I want you to work on 6.6, but I do not want you to do any problems that say graph. Is everybody with me?
Mm-hmm.
You can work on 6.6 homework, but do not do any problems that say graph. I just want you to do the ones that say calculate the slope, find the slope, find the equation of a line. Do not do any that say graph. Capiche?
Thank you.
All right, y'all get out of here and work on 6.6 and work on the rest of the homework if needed.